I'm Alan Martin Hobson. I come from Botton village. I have lived in Botton for almost 24 years.
Tell me what happened the night of the Danby meeting that we all went to.
It's that when I was in the car park over in Botton village, I was sat in a minibus with Erwin, who drove us all the way round to Danby Hall. And while we were waiting to come away, we noticed up the right hand side of the van was a car parked, and I think it was David Knowles and somebody else, and Francis Wright, who was with him. And as far as I can gather, when we were driving along the road towards Danby Hall, we saw this car behind, and someone said it could well be David Knowles coming to have a look what we're going to talk about. It being like a spy for Cvt. And of course when we got to the hall itself and went inside, and got asked to speak up for Botton, I got up and went down to the front of the hall, or where the stage is at the back of the hall. And at the side, I think there was somebody with a camera taking photographs.
The paper today announced that the police in Whitby have already decided that there's nothing to investigate.
Why they went and closed the case when we haven't been even spoken to? Well, we are disabled, and we have as much right as other people have, in a way. And it would be nice if they could reopen it up again and would interview people like me and Neil and a few other people that live in Botton, because it's affecting us, and it's very upsetting, and it's very, well, it's just frightening really. It's been a frightening year altogether.
What's frightening?
What's frightening is where it's been closed. That's what's frightening about it, and we didn't know until I saw it today in the paper, which was shocking. That's a full word. It was shocking. Why the police in Whitby have closed the case, and I think really should really open it and let us talk to them and tell them what we really need to talk about.
Neil, we've just read today in the Whitby Gazette that the Whitby police have decided to close the investigation into allegations of bullying and harassment by managers. Can you tell me what you think about that?
I think it's a total load of nonsense. There has been several cases of bullying and harassment by the managers to the co-workers, saying that if you don't sign up to this document to become an employee, you'll be evicted. I just think it's just nonsense. There has been, as I say, there's been several cases of alleged harassment and bullying by the managers. Look at, for example, in the past there was Paul Abel, David Adams, Peter and Elena Peter Woods, who used to live in Botton, Mark. That is a long list of people that have been suspended over allegations of bullying and abuse, whereas the managers, they are doing the harassment and bullying by introducing these stupid changes, which they say is for Her Majesty's Revenue and Customs, which is a load of garbage.
What effect does that have on a vulnerable learning disabled person? You know my daughter. Do you know what effect that's had on her?
It's had a devastating effect on people like me and Alan and other people.
And how are you changing?
I am 100% against what the management are doing. And because of this, it's making me move my future plans forward. You know, going at such a pace where I will be moving into independent accommodation.
And would you like the police to reopen the investigation?
I think they should. They are fools to close this case when clearly there is evidence, substantial evidence, of these allegations of abuse and harassment.
Do you feel personally harassed sometimes?
Sometimes when I've been working with my care manager and kind of things have not been brilliant recently, but now I've been making good progress. But still, there are things kind of he finds which are bubbling under the surface, and it makes me harassed and stressed, and of course when I get stressed, I get headaches. I get really bad migraine headaches, and sometimes if they're so bad, I have to stay in bed 2 days because it's really like.
Probably understand too much.
I do. That's my thing. That's my problem. I take things in, keep them bottled up, and I'm like a pressure cooker. When it explodes, I explode.
Thank you for sharing that. Could you just introduce yourself and why you're here today?
I'm Michael Hazelton, the Vicar of Danby, and Botton is part of my parish.
Could you explain a bit about your relationship with Botton?
Yes, I have several members of the Botton community come to my church every Sunday, and they're invaluable members of the community there. They're much appreciated by all the congregation and much respected, and they take part in the services in various ways. You know, they have enjoyed participating, and also I go along usually on a Tuesday morning to Botton and do a bit of volunteering in the store, so I get to know people that way. And I've got to know Botton over the last, well, nearly 10 years, and I've come to realise what a special place it is and how very privileged we are here in this part of the world to have that community among us, really, because I think we get more from them than we could ever give to them back.
You've just listened to a couple of the interviews this morning, and we told you what the Whitby Gazette said about the police. Could you tell me some of your feelings and your observations about this crisis situation?
Well, I always think it's a very complex issue, isn't it, when you're dealing with people who are said to have learning difficulties, whatever that means exactly. Of course, it means for different things for different individuals, but I think the principal thing is to have the time and the expertise to listen to them. And it's all too easy to dismiss what they say for various reasons, instead of committing the time and the energy into actually investigating it. I don't know the specifics of the case in that sense, but I'm just saying as a principle, I would have thought that it would have taken longer to come to a conclusion either way than it appears to have done. That's my observation, really.
Longer because?
Longer because it does take time to listen to people, and not always exactly what they're saying, but what they're not saying, and their body language and their experience and so on. It takes a time and an expertise to tease it out. And I guess in the time frame that has been given to the case, I can't see that could have been done, though, as I say, I can't speak about the specifics, only in principle.
How did you feel listening to Neil?
Well, I sensed a great deal of disturbance, emotional upset and anger, really, which he sort of keeps, suppresses in himself, but it's apparent if you listen to him and the way he reacts, that he's very upset and very disturbed by what's happening.
I think that's a really good point. It takes a bit more time. They've shut the case without ever hearing the voices of the learning disabled.
Well, if that's the case, certainly then that is a big, I think, a failing, really. That if you're dealing with the community there, it does take time and it does take expertise.